in the civil service plan. So we'd all become more fully aware of project management. The plan itself was being implemented using project management methodology, with significant shortcomings in the early stages, as such a complex organisation, like 15 government departments and all of that coming together. But there was a huge amount of learning and observing of that. So it was from that, rather than actually saying we must use it everywhere. You know what I mean? It came out of the dynamic rather than feeling that we must kind of follow this project management methodology as an end in itself.
As you said, it wasn't a decision that was made lightly.
It certainly was not.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, though, you have to always look at the opportunity, because what was the alternative in retrospect?
Yeah.
So for me to go off and implement bits, the chief to go off and implement bits, how would you have reported it to the SMC? All of those pieces. Very hard to envision in retrospect how you'd have done it.
Seems you mentioned that, and it's something we'll talk about. The implementation of White Paper 2000 and the review in 2007. Do you feel that it was lacking I know it was lacking in project management, but that it was a significant disadvantage not having some kind of framework there?
I am reluctant. I know you asked the question. It's a long time ago. The world was a different place. Yeah. Things moved more slowly. The way we did our business was different. So if you've looked at the midterm review of the white paper last time, a huge amount of the stuff had actually been done. But we got a bit of a pass in doing the review, to the extent that because you didn't have a firm project management methodology, the outcomes you were evaluating, it was hard to relate them back to the white paper. The one thing that wasn't done, that was a screamer, was that the CS4 hadn't been updated. So whenever that was, 2007, we were still working on a 1998 CS4,
right,
which was hugely problematic from a point of view of, as the former DCOS support used to say, one person, one job with the appropriate pay and allowances. Yeah. If you try and work what we were at then, 10,500 establishment against a 13,500 CS4s, see the complications of that. Of course, yeah. So that was one huge one that should have been, that would have influenced my decision on ensuring that the prioritised bits of the new white paper were fully implemented. The other thing is the last white paper had a very much an internal focus, right? It was coming out of the period when we had massive HR problems within the military, people serving longer than they should, people not getting advanced at the right age, all of these. So it was very much an internal focus. We were absolutely adamant for this one that it would very much take our place internationally, the whole movement in the EU. So we very much had a different idea for this white paper, particularly around the equipment, the possibility of the airport going overseas, all of these things. So it was very much more focused, looking outwards, as distinct from God. The last one was very much coming out of a difficult place.
You mentioned there about civil relations, and I know the white paper says that, and you mentioned it has to be joined or implemented jointly.
Yeah.
Do you feel, or can you see any improvements in civil relations as a result of that? I know we're only a year and a bit down that road.
Yeah, I can give you an anecdotal response to that. Which is, I'm getting very positive feedback about it breaking down barriers or lack of knowledge, and that the human contact is so important, is really important. Yeah. And that you guys have significant turnover. We are in the process of massive turnover in our organisation as well, and that what we're building is future collaboration, an instinct to collaboration as distinct from an instinct to separation. And the other thing is my own sense of going to each of the training days. I always seem to be a very positive atmosphere at them. When I see the civil and the military slagging each other off, I really think we're making progress. You know what I mean? The jokes. Yeah.
Otherwise you can't do that if you don't know someone well enough.
Yeah.
You kind of hit it in there earlier in relation to agenda setting, we'd say, and moving forward. And I'm thinking in particular of the white paper review and update that's to take place later on this year, what level or what inputs will project management have in informing that agenda, or in informing where the review or update will go?
I found that a really, really interesting question, because with the white paper implementation, we have hopefully handed an awful lot more ownership for issues to the appropriate level in the organisation. Therefore, what you would expect is that you will get a more coherent and congruent civil-military feedback on setting the agenda for the future. That doesn't absolve the senior people of giving top-down policy direction as well. So I would hope, although it's very hard to say at this early stage, that it will give more fluency to the civil-military up-down, back, the overall process by which we debate things. Because we've come through the experience of the Green Paper and the White Paper, which were all collaborative. Even if everything didn't end up in it that people would have wanted, I mean, ultimately, if it's a policy call, I make the final call on it. And that's an important point in terms of civil-military collaboration and agenda setting out into the future. The competence on policy ultimately is the Secretary-General's as the Minister's policy advisor, taking into account the military advice. So I feel that we have come a huge way in opening the door to the military on that, and there's always an expectation of reciprocation. Okay?
Expectation.
So, but it's interesting you talk about setting an agenda, because my methodology and the methodology we entered into the white paper process was actually one of analysis rather than agenda setting. So I have to challenge the idea of agenda setting. From where I sit, when we do the review of the white paper, what we're obliged to do is revisit the threat assessment and then question the defence policy response to the threat, and then look at any gaps in our capability and then address those capability gaps. So there isn't an agenda to set other than analysis and following the evidence. Now, there is an agenda at the moment that defence, for example, should be more involved in cyber. And I'm neither for nor against that. But the questions I ask are, what role has the government assigned to the Department of Communications, the Guards? And if there's a lack of clarity over where we sit on that, well, first of all, you find out where overarching government policy is. You then ask, what does defence need for its inherent cyber capability? You then ask, is there a wider role in a gap? And if there is, well then, do we seek resources in order to fill that gap? But it's not an agenda that we must be involved in cyber. It's a different methodology and a different way of going about the world. You know what I mean? So that's why when I bumped across the word agenda setting.
I suppose, and kind of feeding into what you're saying there, in looking at the agenda setting, for want of a better word, for the update or the review, I was thinking, would project management give us some kind of analytical tool to say, well, that seems to be working, we keep going that way, that's not working, or that won't come with that threat. And again, it was kind of maybe, I suppose, informed agenda setting is what I was thinking in that regard.
But will the white paper, the project management methodology will give you the framework in which to do the review and make sure it's civil military and capture all those bits. It won't necessarily give you the answer. Sure it won't.
Again,
could it? If you do it properly, I suppose.
Again, when I was thinking about it, a year ago when I was more involved in it, I was thinking, okay, well, you're going to have this policy. This policy needs to have a certain outcome, be it capability development, HR, whatever. You baseline that out where we are at the moment. You say we want to go to here. You try and go from here to there. you then look back and see, well, did we
Did
get
it-
there
yeah,
because
yeah.
of